17. Black actors who were biggest jerks in real life. One was America's Dad, until more than 60 women told a very different story. One was crowned the king of R&B and is now serving 30 years in federal prison. One faked his own attack and paid for it, until a court erased the conviction on a technicality that cleared nothing. Behind the million-dollar smiles and the golden statues, some of the most beloved faces in entertainment carried a very different truth. Courtrooms, apologies, and reputations that never fully healed. Today we separate the proven record from the rumor. Stay to the end, because the biggest name will make you rethink everything. And subscribe to Secret Celebrity Stories, where the truth behind the fame finally comes to light. Kanye West. Kanye West, legally known as Ye, may be the most gifted music producer of his generation, with 24 Grammy Awards and albums that reshaped hip-hop's entire sound, which is exactly what makes his self-destruction so staggering to watch. Over the last several years, the visionary transformed into a cautionary tale, dismantling a billion-dollar empire with his own words. The breaking point came in October 2022, when West unleashed a series of anti-Semitic statements across social media and television that were condemned worldwide. The corporate response was swift and historic. Adidas, which had built his Yeezy line into a juggernaut, severed ties, a move that erased his billionaire status almost overnight and cost the company an estimated hundreds of millions in revenue. Gap and Balenciaga followed, but the damage wasn't only financial. He used his platform of tens of millions of followers to wage deeply personal public campaigns. And former employees have alleged in lawsuits a chaotic, hostile work environment. His professional reputation grew equally turbulent, arriving hours late to his own events, abruptly canceling a headlining Coachella slot, and leaving collaborators stranded. Some point to his openly discussed mental health struggles as important context, and that context matters. But the consensus in the industry shifted regardless. A man once celebrated as a generational creative force came to be seen as someone who weaponized his platform. Today, West remains one of music's most polarizing figures, a former king whose legacy is now a permanent tug-of-war between undeniable artistic genius and the real-world conduct that alienated the very partners and fans who helped build his throne. His story is the starkest proof on this list that talent and judgment are two entirely different currencies. Bill Cosby. For decades, Bill Cosby was America's dad, the wholesome heart of The Cosby Show, a series so beloved it earned an estimated $600 million in syndication and reshaped how black families were portrayed on television. That image makes what followed one of the most jarring reversals in entertainment history. Beginning around 2014, after a viral stand-up set by comedian Hannibal Buress reignited old allegations, more than 60 women came forward over time, with strikingly consistent accounts of misconduct spanning decades. The scale was staggering. The legal reckoning centered on a 2004 encounter with Andrea Constand. After a 2017 mistrial, Cosby was convicted in 2018 on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault and sentenced to prison, a landmark moment in the early #MeToo era. But the story did not end there, and accuracy requires the full picture. In 2021, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court vacated that conviction and released him. Crucially, this was not a finding of innocence. The court ruled that a prior prosecutor's non-prosecution agreement had been violated, a procedural due process issue, and barred a retrial. Cosby walked free at 83, with the underlying accusations never legally retested. The reputational consequences, however, were absolute. Honorary degrees were rescinded and statues removed. Once a symbol of moral authority who lectured young people on responsibility, he became one of the most polarizing figures in American culture. Cosby's saga is a study in how a carefully cultivated public image can collapse under the weight of accusation, and how a legal outcome can be widely misunderstood, since a vacated conviction on procedural grounds is a very different thing from an acquittal. His name now sits permanently at the center of a debate about legacy, due process, and public trust. R. Kelly. R. Kelly was, for a time, the undisputed architect of modern R&B. a songwriter behind generational hits with more than 75 million records sold and 3 Grammy Awards. But unlike the ambiguous or contested entries elsewhere on this list, Kelly's case is settled in a court of law, and it is the gravest here. For years, warning signs and allegations trailed him, including long circulating reports about an illegal marriage to a teenage singer in the 1990s. The industry largely looked away. That silence finally broke with the 2019 documentary Surviving R. Kelly, whose survivors described a controlled, cult-like environment. The legal system then moved decisively. In 2021, Kelly was convicted in federal court in New York on 9 counts, including racketeering and sex trafficking. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. A separate federal case in Chicago in 2022 resulted in additional child pornography and enticement convictions, adding a further 20-year sentence, the bulk of it to run concurrently. These were not allegations or tabloid rumors. They were unanimous jury verdicts after full trials, upheld on appeal. The fallout was total and permanent. Streaming platforms pulled his music from official playlists. Collaborators erased their associations, and a career built over 30 years was dismantled in full public view. Kelly's story stands apart because it removes the separate the art from the artist debate from the realm of opinion into the realm of federal sentencing. He remains the most sobering entry here, a reminder that fame and talent can function as tools of concealment. His legacy is now defined not by his catalog, but by his convictions. Chris Brown. Chris Brown arrived as a phenomenon, a teenage triple threat hailed as a potential successor to Michael Jackson, with gravity-defying dance skills, silky vocals, and, over his career, more than 100 million records sold. Then, in February 2009, a single night redefined his public identity forever. On the eve of the Grammy Awards, Brown assaulted his then-girlfriend, the singer Rihanna. The leaked police photograph of her injuries became one of the most shocking images in modern music. Brown pleaded guilty to felony assault and was sentenced to 5 years of probation, roughly 1,400 hours of community service, and a domestic violence counseling program. It was a documented, admitted crime, not a rumor. What complicated any path to redemption was what came after. Rather than a clean arc toward accountability, his subsequent years featured further volatility. A 2011 outburst in which he reportedly destroyed a dressing room window after being questioned about the assault on live television, high-profile altercations with other artists, and a string of legal issues between 2013 and 2019 that included a jail stint. Each new headline reopened the old wound and kept the 2009 case at the center of his story. And yet, unlike many on this list, Brown never lost his commercial base. He has continued to chart hits and sell out tours, sustained by a fiercely loyal fan base. That very endurance is what makes him such a lightning rod. He is the definitive test case for whether talent and popularity can outrun a documented history of violence. For his critics, Brown embodies an industry too willing to forgive. For his fans, a man who paid his legal debt. Either way, his legacy remains permanently shadowed by that one undeniable night. Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes was the king of 1990s action cinema, a genuine martial artist whose Blade trilogy grossed over $400 million worldwide and effectively launched the modern superhero era. But his reputation curdled on 2 very different fronts, one a matter of legend, the other a matter of federal record. The set of 2004's Blade Trinity became infamous through stories told by his co-stars and crew, most vividly by Patton Oswalt. According to their accounts, Snipes clashed bitterly with director David Goyer, allegedly communicated mainly through notes signed Blade, and was frequently absent from set. It's important to be precise here. These are the recollections of others, colorful and widely repeated, but never confirmed by Snipes himself, who has disputed the more extreme versions. What is not in dispute is the legal chapter. In 2008, Snipes was convicted on 3 misdemeanor counts of failing to file federal tax returns, tied to millions in unreported income. He served 3 years in federal prison from 2010 to 2013, a very real sentence that froze his career during the exact boom of the superhero genre his own films helped pioneer. He has since staged a dignified comeback in projects like Dolomite Is My Name and Coming to America, earning warm reviews and industry goodwill. Snipes' story is a study in proportion. The on-set legends may be exaggerated folklore, but the tax conviction was documented fact with documented consequences. Together, they turned an icon into a cautionary tale about how professional friction and legal missteps can stall even the most electric career, and about how, with time and humility, a reputation can be at least partly rebuilt. Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase is the rare entry here whose reputation rests not on courtrooms, but on decades of documented workplace behavior, earning him a widespread reputation as one of the most difficult personalities in Hollywood. As an original breakout star of Saturday Night Live and the face of the Vacation franchise, his deadpan brilliance made him a fortune, but the stories of his conduct began almost immediately. In the 1970s, he reportedly came to blows with Bill Murray, backstage at SNL, and his early exit from the show left lasting friction. The most damaging accounts came decades later on the beloved sitcom Community. Despite earning a reported six-figure salary per episode, Chase was said to openly disparage the writing, chafe at the hours, and clash bitterly with creator Dan Harmon. Most seriously, co-star Donald Glover later revealed that Chase had made demeaning, racially charged remarks to him on set, comments Glover interpreted as an attempt to unsettle a younger, rising talent. That reporting led to Chase's departure from the show in 2012. What separates Chase from others here is his lack of any public contrition. Well into his 80s, he has stated in interviews that he simply doesn't care what people think of him. He has never been accused of a crime. His entry is about temperament, not the law. But his story is a striking example of how a reputation for cruelty toward colleagues can define a legacy just as powerfully as any scandal. For all his genuine comedic influence, Chase stands as a lonely cautionary figure. Proof that in an industry built on collaboration, how you treat the people around you can ultimately outweigh how funny you are. Cuba Gooding Jr. Few Hollywood falls have been as steep as Cuba Gooding Jr.'s. In 1997, his exuberant performance in Jerry Maguire won him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, and his cry of "Show me the money" became a permanent piece of pop culture language. He was, for a moment, one of the most bankable and beloved stars in the business. The decline that followed unfolded slowly, then all at once. For years, whispers circulated about difficult behavior in nightlife settings. Those whispers became a legal reality, beginning in 2019, when multiple women in New York came forward with accusations of unwanted touching at bars and clubs. In 2022, after extensive legal maneuvering, Gooding pleaded guilty to a single misdemeanor count of forcibly touching a woman, accepting a plea deal that required him to complete alcohol and behavioral counseling and avoided jail time. It was a documented admission in a court of law, not a rumor, though it resolved only one count among the broader claims. The professional consequences were severe. The man who once commanded multi-million-dollar paydays found himself relegated to low-budget films that barely reached audiences, his A-list standing effectively gone. Gooding's story is a pointed illustration of how quickly a Hollywood pedestal can crumble, and how an Oscar offers no immunity from accountability. It also sits in a careful middle ground on this list, a real guilty plea, but to a misdemeanor, with many broader allegations never adjudicated. What remains undeniable is that the charismatic energy that made him a star could not protect a legacy once his off-screen conduct entered a courtroom, a reminder that reputations built over decades can be reshaped in a single news cycle. Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence was a titan of 1990s comedy, the explosive engine of the hit sitcom Martin and half of the $800 million Bad Boys franchise, with a net worth later estimated above $100 million. But his peak years were shadowed by turbulence that has followed his legacy ever since. And here, accuracy demands real care to separate documented facts from the harsher framing. The most cited episode involved his Martin co-star Tisha Campbell. In 1997, Campbell filed a civil lawsuit alleging sexual harassment and a hostile work environment on set. It's important to note This was a civil suit that was ultimately settled, not a criminal conviction. Campbell left the show, and the two reportedly reconciled years later. Around the same period, Lawrence experienced widely reported public health crises, including a 1996 incident in which he was hospitalized after an episode on a Los Angeles street. Many observers have since viewed these episodes with more compassion, understanding them in the context of exhaustion and health struggles rather than pure misconduct. What's fair to say is that his intensity during that era created friction, and the dismantling of a top-rated sitcom amid that tension became part of his story. But Lawrence's arc bends toward redemption. He matured, stabilized, and found a genuine second act, returning triumphantly in the Bad Boys sequels to warm reviews and box office success. His journey is a more nuanced entry than the tabloid version suggests, a reminder that some difficult star narratives are tangled up with real health struggles, and that a person's most chaotic chapter need not be the final word on who they become. Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard is an actor of undeniable electric talent, Oscar-nominated for Hustle and Flow, and unforgettable as Lucius Lyon in Empire. But his career has been persistently shadowed by a reputation for being combative, eccentric, and difficult, and his story requires unusual precision to tell fairly. The most concrete professional friction came at the dawn of the Marvel era. Howard played James Rhodes in the first Iron Man in 2008 as its highest-paid actor, but was replaced by Don Cheadle for the sequels amid a contract and salary dispute, a falling out he has spoken about with visible bitterness ever since. In his personal life, Howard has been the subject of several allegations of domestic conflict across the years, including restraining order filings. Here, caution is essential. Many of these matters were civil disputes, or were settled or dropped, and they should not be recounted as a proven pattern of criminal violence, because the legal record does not establish that. What is undisputed is his turn toward eccentric public statements, most famously his self-styled theories rejecting established mathematics, which he calls teriology, delivered in interviews with a combative certainty that has baffled scientists. This has cemented his image as a brilliant but polarizing figure who resists every professional and intellectual norm. Howard's legacy is genuinely divided. Few question the raw power of his performances, yet his temperament and unconventional beliefs have left a trail of strained relationships. His entry is less about the law than about a personality so intense it perpetually threatens to overshadow the artistry. A man whose gifts and grievances seem locked in permanent competition for how the world will ultimately remember him. Tracy Morgan. Tracy Morgan is a master of absurdist comedy, a Saturday Night Live veteran whose Emmy-nominated turn as Tracy Jordan on 30 Rock helped power the show to 16 Emmy wins. His comedic brilliance has never been in doubt, but in 2011, he crossed a line that briefly threatened everything he'd built. During a stand-up set in Nashville, Morgan launched into a homophobic rant so violent in its language, including a remark about how he would react to having a gay son, that the backlash was immediate and national. It wasn't edgy comedy. It was widely condemned as genuine cruelty, aimed at a marginalized community, and it alienated a large portion of his audience overnight. What distinguishes Morgan's story from some others here, though, is what he did next. Rather than dig in defiantly, he issued a public apology, returned to Nashville to apologize in person, and met with LGBTQ+ advocates and families. A genuine, visible effort at accountability that many credited as sincere. Before that, he'd also carried a reputation for being unpredictable on sets. Then, in 2014, a near-fatal highway crash, which resulted in a reported $90 million settlement with Walmart, nearly killed him, and by his own account, fundamentally changed his perspective on life. He has since enjoyed a warm comeback with the series The Last O.G. Morgan's arc, is ultimately one of the more redemptive on this list. A serious, harmful lapse followed by real contrition and growth. His story raises a fairer question than simple condemnation, whether people can genuinely change, and whether accountability, when it's sincere, can begin to repair even a very public wound. Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon built one of the most impressive hustles in modern entertainment, From teenage Nickelodeon star to mogul, producer, and host of hits like The Masked Singer, anchoring a business empire estimated around $50 million. Then, in 2020, he nearly detonated it all in a single conversation. On an episode of his podcast, during a discussion with a guest, Cannon promoted anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and hateful rhetoric that drew immediate, widespread condemnation. The response was decisive. Viacom-CBS, which had partnered with him for over 2 decades, cut ties immediately, citing a failure to uphold standards of inclusivity. For a moment, one of the industry's most bankable personalities looked finished. But Cannon's path afterward is what makes his entry more than a simple scandal. Initially, his response was defiant, and he faced criticism for demanding ownership of his Wild 'N Out brand rather than immediately apologizing. Before long, however, he changed course, issuing sincere apologies, meeting with Jewish leaders, and undertaking a public process of education that eventually restored his hosting career. He has spoken since about what he learned. Separately, his unconventional personal life, fathering a large number of children with multiple partners, has kept him a subject of ongoing public debate about celebrity parenting. Cannon's story lands as a genuine case study in modern redemption, a serious, harmful mistake, an initial stumble in responding to it, and then a deliberate effort to make amends that the industry ultimately accepted. It stands in pointed contrast to the figures here, who never apologized at all, a reminder that how a person responds to their worst moment often shapes their legacy as much as the moment itself. Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett was a breakout star of Empire, whose portrayal of Jamal Lyon offered rare, meaningful representation for Black LGBTQ+ audiences on primetime television. Then, in early 2019, his name became attached to one of the strangest and most contested sagas in recent memory. On January 29, 2019, Smollett reported that he had been attacked in Chicago by 2 men who shouted racist and homophobic slurs and put a rope around his neck. The nation initially rallied around him, but the Chicago Police Department later alleged that Smollett had paid 2 brothers, the Osundairos, $3,500 to stage the incident, and accused him of fabricating the attack. From here, the facts require unusual care, because the legal outcome is widely misunderstood. Smollett was convicted in 2021 on 5 counts of felony disorderly conduct and briefly began a jail sentence. However, in November 2024, the Illinois Supreme Court overturned that conviction. And, crucially, this was on procedural grounds, not a declaration of innocence. The court ruled that an earlier non-prosecution agreement with prosecutors should have barred the second case entirely. The special prosecutor stressed the ruling has nothing to do with Mr. Smollett's innocence and did not disturb the jury's verdict. In May 2025, Smollett settled a related civil suit with the city of Chicago. Throughout it all, Smollett has consistently and forcefully maintained that he is innocent. His story is therefore one of the most genuinely unresolved on this list. A jury once found him guilty. A court later erased that conviction on a technicality. And the man at the center insists it never happened. It stands as a cautionary tale about rushing to certainty in a case history itself never fully closed. Isaiah Washington. Isaiah Washington was a central pillar of the cultural juggernaut Grey's Anatomy, playing the brilliant Dr. Preston Burke on a show pulling in an average of nearly 19 million viewers per episode at its peak. He was a household name at the height of one of television's biggest hits. Then, in 2006 and 2007, a workplace conflict dismantled it all and became a landmark case study in how a lack of contrition can end a career. During an on-set altercation, Washington used a homophobic slur in reference to a castmate. The incident leaked and became a public relations crisis. What turned a survivable mistake into a career-ending one was what followed. At the 2007 Golden Globes, standing before the global press, he repeated the slur while denying he had used it, a baffling act of defiance that eliminated any goodwill. He was fired from the show shortly after. The fallout was severe. He went from a lead on primetime television to being largely unhireable by major studios for years, and his subsequent framing of himself as a victim of cancel culture did little to rebuild bridges. He has continued to work, notably on the series The 100, but the shadow of 2007 never fully lifted. Washington's story is one of the clearest illustrations on this list of a specific, avoidable lesson. The offense itself might have been recoverable, but the refusal to sincerely own it was not. In an industry that has shown it can forgive a great deal when met with genuine accountability, his defiance became the defining act, proof that sometimes it is the response to the mistake, far more than the mistake itself, that seals a legacy. Cat Williams. Cat Williams is a comedic supernova, a stand-up of razor-sharp brilliance whose specials are considered genre classics, and whose 2024 Club Shay Shay interview became a genuine cultural event with tens of millions of views. His talent and cultural relevance are beyond dispute, but alongside that genius runs a long, documented history of legal trouble and volatility that has made him one of entertainment's most unpredictable figures. Williams has been arrested numerous times over the years, on charges ranging from assault to weapons and property offenses, a rap sheet unusually long for a working entertainer. The year 2016 was especially chaotic, including an incident in which he was filmed in a physical altercation with a teenager during a youth soccer game, footage that went viral and drew widespread criticism for a grown man engaging a minor. Professionally, he has a reputation for volatility, walking off stage mid-performance on occasion, leaving paying crowds disappointed, and engaging in pointed public feuds with fellow comedians. He often frames his outbursts as speaking truth to power, and his supporters see a fearless truth-teller. His critics see a volatile liability. Both readings coexist. With a net worth estimated above $10 million and a fan base that remains devoted, Williams endures where less talented peers would have vanished. His entry is less about a single defining crime than about a persistent pattern of instability that keeps him perpetually on the edge of controversy. He stands as a complicated figure, a man whose comedic genius is matched by an unpredictability that has repeatedly landed him in courtrooms and headlines, leaving his legacy suspended somewhere between revered artist and cautionary tale. Foxy Brown. Foxy Brown was once the reigning queen of hardcore hip-hop, a Brooklyn prodigy whose platinum debut placed her at the white-hot center of the 1990s rap explosion alongside Jay-Z and Nas. Her lyrical talent was undeniable and genuinely influential on a generation of women in the genre. But her career was repeatedly derailed by a documented pattern of legal trouble tied to her temper. The most cited incident came in 2004, when Brown was accused of assaulting 2 employees during a dispute at a Manhattan nail salon, a case that led to years of probation. Rather than resolving there, her legal issues deepened. In 2007, she was sentenced to a year in jail for violating that probation after another altercation, this one involving a neighbor. These were real charges with real consequences, not tabloid embellishment, and they turned a rising icon into a fixture of the crime blotter. Within the industry, she developed a reputation for being difficult, and she became isolated through well-publicized feuds with peers like Lil' Kim and Queen Latifah. Compounding the tragedy, Brown endured a period of severe hearing loss that threatened her livelihood as a performer. Her story carries a genuine note of sadness beneath the controversy, an artist of real gifts, whose career was undone less by any single scandal than by a recurring inability to stay out of conflict. Foxy Brown remains a poignant figure in hip-hop history, living proof that immense talent alone cannot sustain a career when it is repeatedly overshadowed by legal chaos, and a reminder that some of the genre's most promising voices were quieted not by a lack of ability, but by battles they could not stop fighting. Faizon Love. Faizon Love is a veteran comedic character actor beloved for scene-stealing roles in cult favorites like Friday, where he played Big Worm, and the holiday classic Elf. Across 3 decades and dozens of credits, his gift for physical comedy is genuine and well-earned. Off-camera, however, he has cultivated a far more combative reputation, built on a series of documented physical confrontations. The most concrete incident occurred in 2017 at an airport in Columbus, Ohio, where surveillance footage captured Love in a physical altercation with a valet worker, grabbing the man and throwing him behind a counter. The episode led to his arrest on a misdemeanor assault charge. Because it was caught on camera, this is not a matter of hearsay, but of visible record. His reputation was further complicated when he became one of the more vocal public defenders of Bill Cosby during that saga, using language about the accusers that sparked significant backlash. Love has also engaged in a long series of public feuds with fellow comedians, and he has faced additional legal scrutiny in recent years. Taken together, these episodes have largely kept him out of major studio projects, confining a legitimately talented performer to the independent and stand-up circuits. Love's entry is a smaller scale but instructive example of the list's central theme, a real, camera-documented pattern of aggression that steadily narrowed the opportunities his talent might otherwise have earned. He remains a polarizing figure, an actor whose undeniable screen presence is persistently undercut by an off-screen persona that many in the industry have found too abrasive and too volatile to risk working alongside. Columbus Short. Columbus Short seemed destined for stardom. After his breakout in the dance film Stomp the Yard, which grossed over $75 million, he landed a career-defining role as Harrison Wright on the political thriller Scandal, working alongside Shonda Rhimes and Kerry Washington on a show that drew nearly 12 million viewers an episode at its height. He was, briefly, one of the most promising young leading men on television. Then it all unraveled with startling speed. In 2014, Short was involved in a bar fight in Los Angeles, in which he allegedly knocked a man unconscious, resulting in criminal charges. The trouble compounded quickly. His personal life spilled into public view when his then-wife filed for divorce and alleged a violent domestic dispute. Facing mounting legal problems and a toxic public image that threatened the show's reputation, ABC made the swift decision to write him out of Scandal, a devastating blow that took him from primetime lead to persona non grata almost overnight. In the years since his firing, he has faced further arrests related to domestic violence allegations and probation issues, including a jail sentence in 2018. He has attempted various comebacks in independent films and has spoken publicly at times about substance struggles and a desire to rebuild. Short's story is perhaps the list's most cautionary in its trajectory. A young actor handed a golden opportunity who watched it evaporate through a rapid accumulation of legal and personal turmoil. It stands as a stark reminder that in Hollywood, momentum is fragile, and that the industry's most powerful allies can vanish the instant an actor's off-screen conduct becomes a liability too large to manage. 17 stars, 17 collisions between talent and conduct. Some were convicted in a court of law. Some had those convictions overturned on technicalities that settled nothing. Some apologized and rebuilt, while others never said sorry at all. Which brings us to the oldest question in entertainment. Can we truly separate the art from the artist? Does an Oscar or a Grammy excuse the way someone treats the people around them? And are we, the audience, partly responsible for keeping flawed stars on their pedestals? There are no easy answers here, only the record and your own conscience. Tell us honestly in the comments where you draw the line. And subscribe to Secret Celebrity Stories, where the whole truth outlives the headlines.